Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hal Turner Show, live from New York, USA, on WBCQ, 7.490 megahertz, international shortwave, and 95.1 FM in New York City. This program is being simulcast on the internet at superstation95.com. I am the voice of the common man. If you would like to call this program to express your opinion about news or issues that are important to you, the telephone number to dial, 201-771-3013. Again, 201-771-3013. This is a special edition of the Hal Turner Show. Today is 23 February 2016. It is 8:01 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. About a week ago, I did a special show like this, during which I announced that we were likely 18 days away from World War III. A lot has transpired since then. I want to bring you up to date because something happened earlier today that makes me fear beyond fear that World War III is literally just days away. When I came on last Tuesday evening, I explained to you that Turkey in the Middle East was massing troops. Saudi Arabia had begun plans for a military exercise. And then later last week, on Wednesday and Thursday, I was able to tell you that Saudi Arabia's military exercise was of their new Arab coalition against terrorism. And as part of this exercise, they were going to assemble 350,000 ground troops, 20,000 tanks and armored vehicles, 2,450 warplanes, 460 military helicopters. These forces were massing in northern Saudi Arabia for a drill. And I made it clear that never before in the history of human existence was there a drill involving that many ground troops and that many pieces of armor, that many warplanes, or that many helicopters. A drill has to be manageable. A drill has to be something that people can engage in, have their conduct and their performance analyzed, that they can learn from. And in order to have a drill, you have to have, experts, trainers, teachers, people to analyze what's gone on, people to critique it, people to train. And you simply cannot have a drill or an exercise with 350,000 troops. It was an invasion force. And it was an invasion force that was being misrepresented deliberately as an exercise by the country that was hosting it, Saudi Arabia, because for the last 4 or so years, it's turned out that it's been Saudi Arabia and their Sunni Muslim pals in the Middle East, countries like Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Turkey, incidentally, Sunni Muslim. They are the ones that have been backing these so-called moderate rebels who have been engaged in a civil war in an effort to overthrow the government of Syria. And I pointed out to you last week in the various shows that I aired that the president of Syria, Bashar Assad, was being templated. He was being templated the same way Saddam Hussein of Iraq had been templated, the same way Muammar Gaddafi of Libya had been templated. Heck, if you want to go back even farther, this template, I think, first originated with Slobodan Milosevic in the old Yugoslavia. when the Serbs in Serbia and the Croats in Croatia were going at each other. Bosnia-Herzegovina, you guys remember that stuff, right? It was back in the mid-90s, around 1996. That's when this template really got going. And the template was simple. When they want to overthrow a country's government, they accuse the leader of being a ruthless dictator who oppresses his people, who denies them the ability to vote, who beats them and gasses them and tortures them. You know the drill. And that's what was being done to President Bashar Assad of Syria. Now, don't get me wrong. In some of these cases, this template may have been correct. But it is my considered opinion that in all of these templates, all of these cases, whether the leader was a dictator and abusive was none of our damn business. That is an issue for the people of each of those countries. The same way that the founding fathers of these United States rose up against tyranny and threw off an oppressive king is the same way that all the people of every other country that exists on this planet can rise up and throw off their oppressive dictator, tyrant leader. It is completely unacceptable to me that my country, these United States, engages in the overthrow of governments on the basis of the way that government treats its people. Because I think that if we're going to have a standard whereby governments can be overthrown by foreign governments based upon the way that government treats its people, then we need only look at the way our federal government treats the people of this country and ask rhetorically, because I don't want to get arrested and thrown back in jail, ask rhetorically, isn't our government repressive? Isn't our president acting like a dictator? Because if someone on the outside were to apply the same template to the federal government of this country that our federal government has applied to the leaders of other countries, it seems to me that some people around the world might come to the conclusion that it was our government that needed to go. Now, I don't know if they would come to that conclusion. I'm simply talking in abstract terms here. And while I'm talking, you can hear that my sore throat that I've been suffering from for about a week now has, still not completely subsided. So I think I sound a little better than I did about a week ago, but my voice is only about 70% back. So please just put up with me because it's getting better little by little every day, but it's still a bit gruff. All right. So anyway, we continue last week and we talk about this 350,000 man drill and how it's actually an invasion force. Well, later in the week, a couple of extraordinary things happened. The government of Egypt, which was sending troops to participate in this exercise, withdrew. Pulled their troops out. And when asked why they did that, Egypt said, this isn't a drill, it's an invasion, and we don't want any part of it. Oh, the cat was out of the bag. That same day, another government, the government of Iraq, pulled out of it. And when they were asked why, they said quite candidly, we're not going to be party to invading another country when it's not part of a UN mandate. Not only did Iraq pull its troops out, Iraq deployed its army along its border with Saudi Arabia. Do you know why? Because it turned out that the Saudis presumed, without consultation, that when it was time to launch this 350,000-man invasion, that they were going to cut through Iraq on their way to Syria. They never asked the Iraqis if it was all right. So Iraq now wanted no part of this drill and moved whatever army they have left to the border with Saudi Arabia to make certain that what was going on in Saudi Arabia did not cross into Iraq on its way to Syria. And then it came out, ladies and gentlemen, that if a force of 350,000 ground troops, backed up by 20,000 tanks and armor, backed up by 2,450 military planes and 460 helicopters, if that kind of a force was coming at you, there is only one possible defense: tactical nuclear weapons. And you heard on this radio show last Tuesday and Wednesday night that based solely and completely on logistics, the only way the Russians and the Syrians could defend Syria from a 350,000-man ground force with 20,000 tanks was to use tactical battlefield nuclear weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, the word of that radio show was condensed by me into my very first article, which appeared on the website superstation95.com. And some incredible things took place. That radio show was uploaded to YouTube, and in the last, I guess it's 7 days, right? Yep. In the last 7 days, that single YouTube video has been viewed 55,000 times. The story, my condensed views put into writing about this on the website for Superstation 95, has gotten like 300 to 500 visits per minute since the story published. And all of a sudden, 2 days ago, Saudi Arabia and Turkey started backtracking. Said, well, there's not going to be any ground troops going into Syria, not without a U.S.-led coalition and or UN mandate. Well, that's a far cry from what the Brigadier General of the Saudi Army was on TV last week saying, because last week he was on TV saying the decision for us to send ground troops into Syria is final. So they were backpedaling. And the Turkish government, which began shelling into Syria from the Turkey side of the border, they started backtracking. No, there's not going to be any invasion by us. No troops into Syria. Well, wow. That was a big change. What changed? The realization that they would have to face tactical nuclear weapons. That's what changed. And so that's, when the world realized that the Russians, never mind the Russians and the Syrians, any country, right up to this very moment, any country, including us here in the U.S., any country facing 350,000 ground troops with 20,000 tanks and armor would have no choice but to deploy tactical battlefield nuclear weapons. It's the only defense. It's the only hope. And so as that realization got around the world, rational people started stepping up saying, you know what? You're not going to start this. You are not going to go into Syria with these ground troops and start a war, which is going to be a nuclear war. You are not going to do it. And thankfully, it appeared, until today, it appeared that cooler heads were prevailing and that maybe the world had dodged a bullet. I regret to inform you that I found out this afternoon we have not dodged a bullet. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon things got much worse. Spoke a little fun at these Arabs.
Yes, is this the
I'll be right back.
American Islamic Anti-Defamation yada bullshit organization?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and my name is Ned.
Ned?
Yes, Ned. N-E-D.
N-E-D. Okay, Mr. Ned.
I was calling about this Steven Seagal movie and the so-called Islamophobia.
About
The movie that the Islamic nation is protesting. It's about Arab terrorists, and they say it's racist.
Yes, sir. I need this film, okay?
Just because a movie is about Arab terrorists doesn't make it racist. I mean, that's just realism.
You need this...
I mean, you have to agree that most terrorists are Arabs.
Hold on, Ned.
I mean, it'd be kind of hard to take a movie seriously if they didn't have Arab terrorists. I mean, what are you going to have, an elite band of bloodthirsty terrorists from Switzerland?
Uh-huh.
What are they going to do, yodel us to death?
Nate.
I mean, I can't take a terrorist serious when he's wearing lederhosen.
Okay, sir.
They going to drive a car bomb full of cough drops into the White House? Ricola. Hello?
How can I help you?
Yes, why do you have to hang up on me like that?
Your name is Ned.
You're just perpetuating the Middle Eastern stereotype by acting like some crazed Ahab the Arab fanatic.
Nate.
Can't we talk like one civilized man to another?
Okay.
Well, actually, like one civilized man to one deranged, unwashed fundamentalist who smells like 100 pounds of camel shit. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, listen, Ahmed. I apologize if I've offended you. 1,000 pardons. Praise Allah, all that bullshit. I want to talk about Islamophobia.
What happens here for Islam?
Yes, I mean, it's not necessarily derogatory to call Arabs terrorists.
Why are you talking with me like that about the bomb, about the relations between...
I mean, every race has to be good at something. You people just have a knack for blowing up innocent people. I mean, it's a gift from God.
Ned.
Be proud.
Okay.
I mean, you give 50 pounds of dynamite to an African-American, he'd probably try to dunk it through a basketball hoop. You see, you give 100 pounds of plastic explosives to a Mexican, he's going to try to use it as a raft to float across the Rio Grande. Whereas a wild-eyed terrorist like yourself could probably blow up a daycare center.
Yeah, I'm not...
Dead babies falling from the sky like rain.
Hold on, please.
The Arab nation is on the cutting edge of music technology.
Okay.
Yes, look, Alibaba.
My name is Saleh.
You got to realize it. This is just Hollywood. There's nothing real about it. I mean, for God's sake, do you actually think in real life Steven Seagal could take on an army of terrorists? That fat piece of shit couldn't fight his way out of a crowded booth at Denny's.
I know that. All.
Let alone an armed group of smelly, bloodthirsty pieces of Shiite like yourself. My name is Osama Ned Loudon.
Your name is Osama bin Laden?
No, Osama Ned Loudon.
Ned Laden, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, may 1,000 snake charmers play ragtime in your mother's uterus. Hello?
Yes?
May 1,000 HIV-positive belly dancers dance on your father's grave. Hello?
Hello?
Can't we all just get along?
Yes, sir. How can I help you?
Yeah, sing with me.
Yes, sir.
Arabic and ivory live together in perfect harmony. Hello?
Hello?
Ahab, the Arab, sick of the burning sands, with a ring in his nose and bells on his toes and a bone in his nose. Oh, come on, sing with me.
Yes, sir, no problem. I will sing with you, sir, no problem.
With a ring in his nose and bells on his toes and a bone in his nose. Oh. Are you my friend?
Yes.
You bastard.
And we're back. Poking fun at the people who take themselves so seriously. Looks like they're willing to start World War III. You're tuned to the Hal Turner Show, a special edition of the program. Tuesday, the 23rd of February, 2016. It is 8:20 p.m. here on the east coast of these United States. I found out earlier this afternoon that somebody's pulling a fast one. And they're doing it in the form of a ceasefire. Those of you who have been following the developments in Syria and the Middle East will be aware that the United States and Russia have agreed to jointly chair a ceasefire inside Syria with the hope of stopping the bloodshed. This ceasefire was announced yesterday. It is due to begin within about 10 days. The idea is that the so-called moderates will stop attacking the Syrian government. The Syrian army, the Russians, will stop attacking the so-called moderates. However, this ceasefire does not apply to any group that is a terrorist group, such as ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Nobody will stop shooting at them. And a lot of people took a collective sigh of relief yesterday when it came out that finally the U.S. and the Russians were going to basically pull the proxies apart and say, all right, boys, time out on this. Let's see if we can work things out another way. I found out today that the ceasefire is a ruse. It is a deception. Something that got my attention this morning made me look into this very deeply. And what got my attention this morning was that Saudi Arabia publicly warned its citizens not to travel to Lebanon and told any Saudis that were already inside Lebanon that they had to leave immediately. And I thought to myself, Lebanon? What the hell is going on in Lebanon that the Saudis would tell their citizens to get out? Didn't make any sense to me. So I took out a map and I looked and, it made sense real fast. Where is Lebanon? It's on the east coast of the Mediterranean, and it abuts southwest Syria. In fact, Beirut, Lebanon, which is right on the Mediterranean, is about 60 miles from Damascus, Syria. And I said, I know what's going on here. Let me check it out. So I made some phone calls to the folks that I used to work with while I was with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. And I got the scoop on what's really going on. And it is a deception. It's a deception by the Saudis and their so-called coalition against terrorism. It's a deception, and here's the verification. About 2 hours after Saudi Arabia publicly warned its citizens not to travel to Lebanon and told any Saudis that are in Lebanon to leave immediately, another country, the United Arab Emirates, told its citizens the exact same thing. Well, folks, why do you get your citizens out of a place? Because you know all hell is going to break loose in that place, right? Okay. Here's what I found out from my folks in the national security intelligence field and the fields of terrorism and foreign counterintelligence. Days ago, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and other member countries of this so-called Arab coalition ordered a redeployment of their submarines into the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Some of these submarines have been told to take up station just west of Latakia, Syria, and others have been told to take up station southwest of Tartus, Syria. Well, folks, both of those places are the location of Russian military bases and troops inside Syria. And while I cannot speak about this factually, I can tell you that it is widely believed those submarines are targeting Russian warships, which are equipped with the advanced S-300 or S-400 anti-aircraft missile system. And upon receiving an attack order, those submarines will fire torpedoes at the Russian vessels patrolling the Mediterranean near Syria, and will also fire torpedoes at ships docked in the port of Tartus and the port of Latakia. The intent is to disable, not sink. They want to disable them so as to neutralize the anti-aircraft capabilities of those ships. Here's the rub. Since the Turks, the Saudis, and other nations in this, Arab coalition, since they all have submarines, there will be no way to tell which nation is responsible for attacking the Russian ships. All of them will have plausible deniability. Now, once the Russian ships on patrol are disabled, there's going to be a gaping hole in the air defenses protecting Syria. And it's at that time that Turkish warplanes will take off from Incirlik Air Base in Turkey and commence attacks into Syria through that air defense gap. They will attack Damascus directly. It gets worse, folks. In preparation for this new plan, I found out today, just hours ago, that for over a week, thousands of troops that were going to take part in that 350,000-man drill, that exercise in Saudi Arabia, well, thousands of them have been quietly traveling in small groups as tourists into Lebanon and into Amman, Jordan. Yeah. Thousands of them have gone into Lebanon and have gone to Jordan. Now, Jordan, I want to tell you, is part of this Arab coalition against terrorism. So there was no sneaking. The Jordanians would be in on this, right? I almost fell off my chair when I was told what I'm about to tell you. It is now also known that the Israeli government has been quietly working with Jordan and Saudi Arabia to prepare for a large force of Arab troops to use the Golan Heights to travel north into Syria to attack Damascus and topple its president. The Israelis are cooperating with the Arabs, and they're going to let an Arab army, proceed north from Jordan through the Golan Heights, which is occupied territory that Israel took from Syria. When they go up through the Golan Heights, they're only going to be 60 miles away from Damascus. The goal for the Israelis is to overthrow Assad so that they get to keep the Golan Heights. It gets worse. And when I come back, I'll tell you. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Blood provides the body with many of the vital elements needed to sustain life. There's an urgent need for all blood types right now. A continuous supply of blood is essential to meet the needs of patients in area hospitals. Remember, blood is only available because volunteer blood donors believe that giving blood is very much worth their time. If you or someone you know is interested in donating blood or has a question about donating blood, call toll-free 1-800-86-BLOOD or visit thebloodcenter.org.
America's broadcasters contribute over $8 billion a year to their local communities and help keep families
Highway
safe.
Patrol was asking broadcasters to warn motorists.
Fighting drug and alcohol abuse.
Friends don't let friends drive.
And helping victims of disaster.
Well, continuing coverage of Fire Watch.
Bringing community service home. Local broadcasters, always on, always there when you need us. Brought to you by this station and the National Association of Broadcasters.
You say your vehicle has airbags, high-impact bumpers, and you always wear your seatbelt. So far, so good. But if you should cut in front of an 18-wheeler on the highway and make that truck jam on his brakes, all of your high-tech safety features just might sound like this. It can take a truck twice as long to stop as a car. For your own safety, give those big rigs a lot of room. Remember, tangle with a truck and you lose. A public service message from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hal Turner Show, live from New York, USA, on WBCQ, 7490 AM, worldwide shortwave, 95.1 FM, Superstation 95 in New York City. This is a special program. I am not usually on Tuesday evenings, but here I am, 23rd of February, 2016, bringing you breaking news about what's actually taking place in the Middle East. I left off with the Israelis working with the Saudis and the Turks and the Jordanians will allow an armed army of Arabs to cross into the Golan Heights from Jordan and traverse the Golan Heights to the north to enter Syria at a point where they'll only be 50 or 60 miles south of Damascus. And they're doing this because if they overthrow Bashar Assad, they get to keep the Golan Heights. They feel that by working with the Arabs to achieve this purpose, Israel is generating goodwill inside the Arab nations with the long-term goal of peace and stability. All right? The fact that they are taking a risk by allowing an armed Arab army to traverse the Golan Heights will foster trust with the new Syrian regime. So it brings to mind a motto of the Israeli Mossad, that motto being, by deception they shall wage war. I told you I had something worse to tell you. Here it comes. Cargo ships carrying container loads of weapons and supplies have been traveling up the Suez Canal, docking in Lebanon, and unloading containers of weapons and ammunition to warehouses outside of Beirut. When the shipments arrive, the troops that were, that sent into the country as tourists are then contacted to come to the various warehouses and quietly, secretly pick up the weapons that they're going to use. Now, it is only about 60 miles from Beirut, Lebanon, to Damascus, Syria. It's actually about 80 miles from the Golan Heights to Damascus. And as I outlined earlier, my sources have told me that there are already over 30,000 troops covertly inside Lebanon, and the number is growing by the hour. I'm also told that there are over 50,000 troops inside Jordan, filling up hotels and apartments near the capital, Amman, and from the capital north. And of course, there are still about 150,000 troops in northern Saudi Arabia taking part in their military exercise. I was told today that before the attacks commence, Turkey will move ground troops across the Syrian border near the Syrian city of Azaz, A-Z-A-Z, to commence the fighting and draw attention to that area. It's an area where a Turkish invasion has been expected for almost 2 weeks now. And as this fighting gets severe, the troops that are around Beirut, Lebanon, and the troops that are around Amman, Jordan, and the troops that are in the northern Saudi desert doing their exercise, they will all start to covertly move toward Damascus. The people in Beirut will be coming in toward Damascus from the west. The troops in Jordan will be coming from the south. The troops in Saudi Arabia will be coming from the east. And because it's the 150,000 troops, that group of troops will break off so that one part attacks Damascus from the east, while another part makes a hard north turn and then makes a U-turn and attacks Damascus from the north. We will have tens of thousands of troops. Not we will have. Let me rephrase that. We will see tens of thousands of troops coming in from the north, the south, the east, and the west, all at once, coming against Damascus. Now, I know that the Russians only have about 20,000 Russian troops in Syria, and that very many of them are support personnel for the Russian Air Force that has been doing a spectacular job of killing the rebels and killing the terrorists. They really have done a spectacular job. You cannot have a force of 20,000 Russians prevail when they're being attacked from the north, the south, the east, and the west by tens of thousands of foreign ground troops. Damascus will fall. Now, there's one Achilles heel to this Arab plan. The Achilles heel is that there's a significant amount of distance of land involved for the troops that are in Saudi Arabia to get to Damascus. And the only alert, the only advance warning that the Syrians and the Russians are going to have that the attack is commencing is when that group of 150,000 troops in northern Saudi Arabia goes on the move. The other troops are already in place. They are to the south in Amman, Jordan. They are to the west in Beirut, Lebanon. Now you know why Saudi Arabia told its citizens to get out of Lebanon. Now you know why about an hour later the United Arab Emirates told its citizens to get out of Lebanon. And let me tell you, at about 25 minutes after 4 Eastern U.S. time today, Bahrain announced that its citizens should not travel to Lebanon and any who are there should leave. See what's happening? Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I can report to you that within the last 24 hours, the country of France, who opposes Russia's participation in Syria, ordered its only aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, and its battle group to proceed immediately from the Persian Gulf and go to the Eastern Mediterranean, right where the Turkish and Saudi submarines were sent to decapitate the Russian fleet. This will put the French Navy right in the middle of the fighting, and it will put French air power close enough to Latakia and Tartus, Syria, to make sure that the Russian S-300 and S-400 anti-aircraft missile systems are knocked out to allow the Turks, who are going to be coming from Incirlik Air Base, to get through to Damascus. All right? This ceasefire being negotiated by the United States and the UK and France with Russia and Syria, this was designed to be a delaying tactic, I think, to allow time for the repositioning of the Saudi Arabian, United Arab Emirates, Turkish forces. Ceasefire's been a ruse. It's a deception. It's designed to allow the aggressors time to reposition and redeploy in a way that prevents Russia from using tactical nukes, but still overwhelms Russian defenses. Because the Russians will not be able to justify using tactical nukes between Damascus and Beirut to stop the 30, 40, 50,000 troops that are coming from there. It's all innocent people in there. And the Russians will not be able to justify using tactical nukes against the 30, 40, 50,000 troops that are coming in from Amman, Jordan, to the south. There's all sorts of innocent people in there. It's a highly densely populated area. And they certainly are going to have a hard time justifying using tactical nukes for the Saudi forces coming in from the east, because as those forces come in from the east, they'll be entering into Jordan before they get to Syria. Again, big civilian populations. So what these bastards have done, these despicable, treacherous people have done, is they have broken up the 350,000-man ground force and redeployed it so that it will achieve the same goal, but use civilians as cover to give the Russians pause so that they won't use tactical nukes. That's how treacherous the people are who are trying to oust Bashar Assad in Syria. These people are so utterly treacherous that they are willing to send armies deliberately passing through densely populated civilian areas, using the civilians as shields. And the poor Russians, who have been acting in good faith in every way and ardently seeking solutions to this Syria issue, would be totally overwhelmed in a manner in which they cannot use nukes. On the surface, if this plan succeeds, Russia will lose Syria, and they will be humiliated on the world stage for all to see. At that point, Russia will be given a choice. Take your losses, push back from the table and call it a day, or engage in a massive, full-scale war to save a country that has already been conquered. What a lousy choice. I'll be back.
Chicken, can I help you?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
What do you need?
My brother's going to come down today. He's going to make a big order, okay? What did he want?
Just take down his name because it's a very, very big order. Do you have a pen handy?
Go ahead.
His name is Maitur.
What is it, Maitur?
It's spelled M-I-T-U-R, and his last name is B-I-N-E-S-D-E-R-T-Y.
My turban is dirty?
Your turban is dirty?
You motherfucker. Chicken, can I help you?
Hello?
Yes, what can I get for you?
Yeah, is your chicken fresh?
It's fresh. How many pieces do you need?
Is your buffalo wing sauce spicy?
Yes, it's spicy. What do you want?
Yeah, is your turban dirty?
Your mother is dirty, you piece of shit. Chicken, how can I help you?
Hello?
What do you need?
Is Mike there?
Mike who?
Mike Turban is dirty?
Driving a stake through the heart of political correctness, sending the sacred cows of the liberal left scurrying for cover. This is the Hal Turner Show, live from New York, New York, USA. I'm here every Wednesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. You can listen on WBCQ 7490 AM, worldwide shortwave, or 95.1 FM, Superstation 95 in New York City. I'm going to open the phone lines. There's only 13 minutes left in the show. I don't know that would be enough time to get many of you in. But I know some of you have a thing or two to say about me, which is fine. I'm a big boy. I could take it. Some of you have a thing or two to say about what's going on over in the Middle East. So let me give you the phone number. We'll see if any of you decide to call in and, see what you have to say. The telephone number to reach this program, 201-771-3013. Again, 201-771-3013. Now, I'm going to move on to a couple of quick other items. I will be on for an extended show tomorrow night as well. My show usually runs 9 to 11. Tomorrow it's going to run 8 to 11. It's going to start an hour early tomorrow night as well. And for those of you listening, around the world, the time zone here in New York is GMT minus 5. All right? So now you can figure out the times. GMT minus 5. And then I will be on again this Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. So, there's a lot of news. It's important stuff. We could literally be just days away from the most horrific war imaginable, a war that ultimately would escalate to nuclear war and possibly be fought here on the North American continent. See, we've got a caller coming in. Let me grab the phone. Hello, thanks for calling. You're on the Hal Turner Show. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Yes, hi, Hal. My name is Ray, and I am calling from St. Louis, Missouri.
Hello, Ray in St. Louis. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Listening to you on live stream on the Internet.
Mm-hmm.
And just discovered you just recently, since I was doing some searching, surfing on the Internet, found your stories very interesting regarding the war in Syria and what everything that's leading up to the war. And I know you've been talking about that tonight, but I was wondering if you've been doing any staying abreast to the information about the death, the suspicious death, that is, and I have trouble with his first name, but Supreme Justice, the late Supreme Justice Scalia.
Yes, Antonin Scalia. Yes, I have been keeping abreast of it, and I can give it to you real down and dirty. It appears to me that Justice Scalia was murdered.
Yes.
All right, I came to that based on the interview that appeared on television of the owner of the resort where Scalia was staying. The owner went into Scalia's room when Scalia didn't show up for breakfast and said that he found Scalia dressed, laying on the floor. His bed had not been disturbed, and there was a pillow on his head.
I also heard that he was wearing pajamas that appeared, they were not wrinkled as if they had been slept in. I also heard in some of my searches on the internet that there were some photographs that had been taken showing that he had bruises all over his upper body, small bruises is from what I believe is what I heard, and that there's actually photographs available on the internet with that. I'd have to search and see if I could find that. I know I saved it in my favorites bar.
Okay.
But I also heard there was a puncture wound, very small puncture wound over his heart.
Well, these are rumors that have flown around the internet like wildfire. I have not heard anything that even remotely jives with what you have told me. Let me explain what I did hear. Justice Scalia was one of the judges of the Supreme Court that voted against having the court take up an appeal by a machinist who was filing a suit for age discrimination against one of the companies owned by the same guy who owns this resort. And Justice Scalia voted against accepting the appeal, which basically ended the lawsuit against the guy who owns the resort. And 4 months later, here he is, Justice Scalia, at this billionaire's resort as a guest. He's not paying the $700 a night fee for the room. He flew there on a chartered jet, and the money for it didn't come out of his pocket. We're still trying to find out who paid for it. And the word I have is that the reason Justice Scalia went to Houston with its, centralization of the U.S. oil industry was to make it clear to the people in the oil industry that the new Clean Power Act, those environmental regulations that the court put on hold by a 5-4 vote, those regulations would have forced the oil industry and other industries to employ more solar power, more so-called green energy, which would have cost the oil companies hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. And the Supreme Court put a temporary stay on the implementation of those rules. Well, I was told that Supreme Court Justice Scalia went down to that resort to take a bribe from the resort owner as payment for finding the case his way 4 months earlier, and that Justice Scalia pointed out to the oil industry executives there that he was the one vote that swung those regulations from being enforced or not. And if they wanted to win that case and keep those regulations gone, then he wanted several $100 million in bribes.
Oh, my word.
And instead of getting a bigger bribe, Justice Scalia got the big sleep. They killed him. Now, whether or not this is ever going to be investigated by the Obama Justice Department, who knows? They're incompetent and they're vicious, but they didn't like Scalia. And the fact that he's dead isn't going to bother them at all. So that's my take, sir. Ray in St. Louis.
Well, that's very interesting because what you just said, I have not heard that angle at all. I find that very interesting. Is there link, or is there a particular site on the internet where I could go and find that story, do you think?
Yeah, you can catch it on superstation95.com.
Okay.
The title of the story, if you search for it, it's Justice Scalia died while receiving a bribe.
Okay.
All righty?
I'm going to search that right away. Thank you so much.
All right, Ray, thanks for calling.
Appreciate your show. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I only have a couple minutes left. Let me divert your attention for a second and remind you that the Hal Turner Show exists solely through listener support. We don't have paid commercials on here. And the reason we don't have paid commercials on here has to do with freedom of speech. This program allows people to call in and discuss topics and offer opinions that regular radio does not allow. And it's simple as to why. Regular radio depends on advertisers. Advertisers don't like controversy. And so the regular radio, commercial radio, will not allow certain viewpoints to be aired or certain topics to be covered because that results in controversy. And nowadays, the politically correct crowd is pretty vicious. They're not content to just change the radio dial and go listen to something else. If they hear something that they don't like, they want it silenced. And so what they do is they start boycotts. And the advertisers get all upset. And the advertisers tell the radio station, either you stop talking about such and such, or we're pulling our advertising dollars. Right? So effectively, the advertisers have an editorial veto over the freedom of speech. We don't do that here. All right? We have freedom of speech, and we get by with it thanks to listener support. Listener support pays for things like the 6 inbound phone lines for the callers to use. It pays for the computer software. It pays for the audio archives of this program to be held on the Internet and be downloadable. All right? It pays for lots of different things. And so that's where your money goes. And I'm asking you to please dig in your pocket, dig in your wallet, open your checkbook, and make a donation. I'm going to give you my name and mailing address. You can send cash, check, or money order. My name is Harold, Harold, Turner, Turner. The address you can mail things to is 1906 Patterson Plank Road. And the city is North Bergen, Bergen, New Jersey, 07047, USA. Every little bit helps. If you can send 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 250, 500, more the better. But this is what your donation goes to pay, and it helps keep freedom of speech alive. You know, 7 days ago, I told you that there would be a tactical nuclear response. Only 2 days ago did the rest of the media start telling you that Vladimir Putin told Turkey he'd make a tactical nuclear response if they invaded Syria. The information you get from this radio show, you get earlier than anywhere else. Because I'm the only radio host that worked for the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, handling national security intelligence, terrorism, and foreign counterintelligence. I need your support. Please send cash, check, or money order to the address I gave you earlier. Tune in 8 o'clock tomorrow night, right here on WBCQ. There will be much, much more. Thanks for listening. I'm Hal Turner. Good night from New York.